Hey everybody, Joshua Laycock here. How are you this beautiful, cold morning? Still not as bad as they got in Alberta, so we don't get to complain. I think it was like minus 39 or something in Alberta yesterday, so we can handle minus 15. Anyway, so I was at Jits last night, and it was good fun, and this was the first time that, so typically what we do in Jits class is, the first chunk is learning new skills and then drilling. And then for the last half an hour, 40 minutes or so, it's open rolling. It's just practicing and scrimmaging for those of you who don't do martial arts but get sort of the sports reference. So anyway, that's fine. But yesterday, for the first time in a long time, what the instructor asked us to do was train. We did our drills, and then he wanted us to show what we learned in front of the group, so, okay, we get up there, and we had learned sort of 4 or 5 things. He said, okay, you do number 1, and I got up there, and I froze. I couldn't remember which one number 1 was, right? I'm totally in my head, overthinking things, and my partner was really great. He was like, it's the one where you pick me up. I'm like, got it, pick you up, throw you. Cool, so I did it. It was a little clumsy, and that was fine. But when I did it, I had a bunch of guys pat me on my back and good job, well done, little clap, and that was awesome. And for me, as someone who, if you go into the love languages, which I think I talked to you about before a long time ago, I like words of affirmation. I just do. I just do. Sometimes I wish that I didn't, but I like hearing good job. I just, that inspires me. So it was really nice to do that. And I could tell, looking around, watching all the other people drill it. And look, it's not being self-deprecating. There's a lot of guys that have been doing this a lot longer than me. Clearly, my maneuver was a lot clunkier and not as technically sound, but it felt good. But what was really cool for me was afterwards, immediately after, and then at the end of class, I had a lot of guys come up and say, hey man, pat me on the shoulder. I'm like, man, you're doing great. You're doing awesome. So good. I keep it up. You're doing really amazing, and blah, 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 blah. And, it is so great because it's a long time since I've been the new guy. It's been a long time since I've had no idea what I'm doing. And even at my age, at 39, and with all the experience that I have in life, being the new guy is still scary and intimidating sometimes. And you want to do really, really well. And, there's a lot of me comparing my first month to someone who's been doing this for years and years and years. And I know that I'm not comparing it in terms of why aren't I as good as him? But you do see the difference, and it kind of reminds you how beginner really is. And anyway, it's a really great environment, and it means a lot to me to have those guys be really supportive of me and my coach as well. But the reason I'm telling you this is not just to tell you how wonderful the guys are at my Jits class, but I've talked a lot about this on other platforms. Is January is the month where everyone goes to the gym. And I've experienced this when I went to sort of a global gym. I've experienced this when I was at CrossFit, is that January is the time that a lot of people summon up the courage to get a gym membership and try to make some changes in their lives. And while, yes, there are study after study after study that say, I don't know the number, but it's 75% of people will have abandoned their New Year's resolutions by February, or some ridiculousness like this. Most people bail. And I get that. But I've talked about, there's a lot of posts on the internet about, kind of laughing or belly aching, however you want to say it, about all the people that are at the gym and how hard it is to get the machines and everything like that. And I understand that. And, okay. But I've always challenged people, instead of saying, I'll just wait them out until March when everyone leaves, why don't we challenge them to stay? Why don't we celebrate their courage? And while you can't get everyone to stay, and to be honest, you probably don't want everyone to stay, because waiting 20 minutes to get onto a squat rack is a pain in the ass. But the point I'm trying to make is, for a lot of us, if we're experienced at something, it's probably hard to remember the time that you were a beginner. And I'm not talking about the beginner's mind, which I've also spoken about, which is sort of remaining humble and always trying to learn. What I'm talking about is go back to those days where you did something for the first time and you were nervous, you were scared, and you had to summon up the courage to go. And maybe you had some people who didn't make you feel so welcome. What did that make you feel like? But I hope that you also had someone who really encouraged you and who took you under their wing and made it so that you were rewarded for your courage. And I think that that's really important. In all walks of life, in all aspects, we should remind ourselves that we were a beginner once, what that felt like, and we should be going out of our way to help those people. Like at work, I struggle with this sometimes. I struggle to remember that not everyone has the level of knowledge that I have yet, and that I need to work with them in a different way. And if someone asks a question, that, to make sure that I answer it in such a way that is not only helpful and informative, but also honors and respects the fact that they might have been nervous even asking me that question because maybe they felt like they should have already known it. And if I give off some vibe that it's like, why don't you know this? Or even if I want to be helpful, but it's like, that's so simple. We're not honoring the reality for that other person. We're not putting ourselves in their shoes and being empathetic in that situation. And I wonder how many people don't ask a second time, or how many people don't go back to class the next day, or how many people don't want to explore and find something that suits them or follow their passions, not only because they're afraid of being new and afraid of not knowing what they're doing, but they're also afraid of not having a supportive community around them. So last night in my time at JITS, although it wasn't my first class, it still feels like it most days, I was reminded in a really, really positive way the value of bringing people up and celebrating their courage, giving someone a pat on the back, giving pointers and tips in such a way that acknowledges the difficulty of what they're trying to do and then wants to bring them up. So that was a really, really amazing experience for me. And as I've heard a few people kind of belly aching about how busy the gyms are these days, I had a really great chat with a buddy of mine about it's a great opportunity for assertive conversations. Instead of saying things like, do you mind if I jump into that, that on that machine in between? It's just being assertive and having a conversation around, hey bud, thanks, we're busy, I'm going to jump in between sets, and seeing how that works. But that's a whole different tangent about assertive communication. But it's just a really great opportunity to honor people's courage. We talk a lot about courage. So go out, and if you see someone who's a beginner, if you see someone who's struggling, if someone's asking you a beginner question, or maybe you're at the gym or you're at JITS or you're whatever that you do, and there's people around you who don't have the level of expertise that you do, be mindful of how you have those conversations with them and celebrate their courage. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.